Hi, I'm Chris with the Craft Beer Connoisseurs, and before the episode begins, I just wanted to provide you with a little information on who we are and how you can stay updated on all of our content. This podcast was created to showcase craft breweries and indulge in interesting conversation. We want to help promote a variety of breweries, and along the way have conversations ranging from sports to beer, and beer to, well, just about anything. Please feel free to follow us on Instagram at Craft Beer Cons, send a friend request on Untapped, or subscribe on YouTube at Craft Beer Connoisseurs. Also, drop a comment, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Now, stay tuned for today's episode. Welcome to Craft Beer Connoisseurs. I'm Chris.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Tyler. And along with us today is Producer Maurice.
Maurice, welcome.
Welcome. So in today's episode, we'll be reviewing Black Gold Brewery, which is in Petrolia, Ontario.
Okay.
And again, we're going to be trying two beers today. The first one is Where Robert Met Fletcher, which is a lager. And the second has a very unique name to it. Pantless in Petrolia.
Interesting.
That is not my nickname, but I'm sure if you ever go to Petrolia, you'll find somebody pantless. It is a double IPA.
All right. Well, great transition into that. So to finish up the episode, we're going to be talking about famous sports families. So stay tuned for that.
All right. So as mentioned, Black Gold is located in Petrolia, Ontario. And it's
a big place.
It's humongous.
Huge.
Yeah.
Larger than I thought, actually.
Very true.
It's actually a very nice town, looks like.
It is.
So the brewery is actually owned by three blondes and a brewer, which is, funny enough, one of the names of their other beers, which we're not going to try today, but different one. So Brent is the brewer, and then the three blondes are Carol, Tara, and Robin.
So the brewery takes its name from the oil-rich heritage of the area because it's a big oil town. And most of their beers also have Petrolia-inspired names.
Yeah, they really like to draw on the local heritage.
Yeah, big community focus.
Yep.
So the brewery makes its home in a building built in the late 1800s. And we'll get there when we talk about the brewery in general. But, I mean, it was a nice building. It has undergone extensive renovations to make the brewery what it is today, while keeping some of the heritage. So they do a really good mix of kind of that 1800s inspired, and then they've kind of modernized it and kept it up to building code and fire codes, right? So,
which is nice to see that it's up to code.
It's good to know that they're following all government guidelines.
Codes have probably changed a bit since the late 1800s.
I would assume to think so.
Big fan of that.
Yeah. So the brewery did open in November of 2020. So they opened in a pandemic. Very interestingly, but they had started planning to open the brewery many years in advance. So it was kind of like, all right, we're ready. Let's just open it up.
And it's one of those things that they had never really been fully able to utilize all the space that they have there yet because they haven't got to a point where they can open fully. It's a big, huge building. I think it can seat about 60 inside and then about 120 outside. So it's a massive place in terms of hopefully when they're able to open up fully,
I think
they can utilize.
I think their internal occupancy was actually almost double that. But
numbers are a strange thing for me.
Yeah. So before we
not your strong suit.
No, math, not good.
Before we continue, I think it would probably be advantageous for the listeners to understand that we were actually there. So we did do it. We did do a tour of the brewery. We sat down with a couple of
all four of us were able to come.
Yes, we were. We were all there. The three of us plus Maurice.
Yes.
It was a good time.
It was a great time. Yeah. So that's just kind of laid the foundation that we all were actually there. So we got to see firsthand what the brewery was inside, outside, and then we got to sample some of their beers. And we're looking forward to the beers today, and we'll get to those later on. But we didn't try those while we were at the brewery like we've done in other places.
Right, because we want to have
first
reaction on the podcast. Absolutely.
Yeah. So how did they get started here, Brett?
So Brent, yes, I can see the confusion there of Brett and Brent. Brent was a home brewer, and many people had recommended that he start a brewery.
Which is, I think, very common like for a lot of these breweries, right?
Absolutely, right. So he was in the hardware store to get help from some minor work, and the person at the hardware store took interest in the work he needed and was subsequently introduced to some other partners.
Right. Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
we have ourselves a brewery.
A brewery was born. And I think, as Brent explained it, before he knew it, he was in front of the town council explaining why they needed a craft brewery in town. And
it's like full on like work here, like with oil, because he'd just done some work in his car. And he's like, bam, I'm doing a presentation to the town of Petrolia about why we need a craft brewery.
Right. So we showed up. And plenty of parking. I think that's kind of like the first thing to kind of notice when we were there. There's parking behind. There's parking to the side. There's parking across the street because I believe there was a public library across the street.
Yeah, and they're very accessible. Like they're just off the main strip, just kind of on a side street there. So super accessible even if you were on foot. Like if you're a local and you're just walking through town, easy to get to it.
Right.
I feel as though if I was a local in Petrolia, I'd be there a lot. Maybe not Pantless, but I'd be there.
Well, you might leave Pantless.
Who knows, right?
That's true. It's located right on a corner, so they have really good patio space, right? So that was one thing that I noticed there, and they actually had, from the town of Petrolia, they supplied them with some picnic tables. So obviously, as this is going to be released, we're going to be in the midst of a lockdown.
Yep.
But after that is completed, we're going to go ahead and say, everybody show up and go outside and use those picnic tables.
Enjoy the patio. Yeah.
Right. It's a beautiful spot. 100%. Both inside and out.
Great location. And yeah, the building itself is absolutely stunning inside, right?
So you mentioned that they did renovations, and it's interesting that all of the renovations, with the exception of some work within the bathrooms, was completed by the owners themselves, which is very impressive because they had said they're not construction workers, they're not tradespeople, so it's very impressive that they were able to do all that work themselves, and it looks really, really nice.
Yeah, they did definitely a very good job on it. In terms of like the taproom tables, they were all handmade. They even like poured the concrete slabs for the bar countertops. Like they put a shit ton of work into this.
Yeah. And you see that, I mean, with some of these smaller breweries, right, is like the amount of sweat equity that they've put into this, and they're very like, there's pride. There's pride in the project. There's pride in the beers, and it's nice to see that kind of leak through.
And you can see that when we talked with Tara and Robin and Brent about how much pride they have in the brewery itself. Right? They are proud to be a part of the community in terms of Petrolia. They are proud to produce good beers from what we've had at the brewery, and hopefully the other two that we're going to have today are top notch as well. Right? So it's good for them to be part of the community and hopefully eventually be able to bring all of the community to the brewery itself.
Yeah, and that shows in the fact that they're naming their beers after Petrolia. Some of their labels have, kind of pictures from the heritage of Petrolia. So that shows that they're really interested in the community and really kind of showcasing the small town, because they are the only brewery in Petrolia. Kind of not surprising.
Amazing.
So they want to do it service, right?
Absolutely. There's no brewery within, I think, about 20-25 minutes of Petrolia itself. So it's definitely recommended for sure that you check it out. In terms of the actual brew house itself, we were all able to get a tour of it.
Yeah. And that's another thing that they said they did a lot of work on is the pouring the concrete in the floors to kind of raise them up, because the area where the brew house is was very much lower than the tap room. So they wanted to kind of lift that up a little bit.
You can see the slant a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Really good for rolling a ball down the hill, right?
Yeah. So I mean, aesthetically, it's great. They have a nice little retail space. They have the brewery portion of it. It's a beautiful brewery. They've done a great job on it, and we commend them for that.
I will say they were very, very proud of some of the equipment that they had purchased as well. So they are a 12-barrel system, and they purchased some equipment from a brewery in Michigan, and the rest was purchased new from China and actually was on the ship, and they were like doing the tracking of the ship, hoping it was going to get there.
That was like right at the beginning of COVID, they said, right?
Yeah. Please show up. So we had a good conversation, as we've mentioned, with them, and we've kind of gone through what their process was for brewing the beers and how they kind of determine what they're going to brew, right? So I'm looking forward to some of the beers we're going to have today.
Yes, absolutely. I know one thing about them is they're really proud of their sinks in their bathrooms. Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, they're...
we talked about the pouring of the concrete slabs, right?
Yes. And they're green urinals. So if you ever taken... no, I'm kidding. But if you ever using the washroom, you don't have to flush.
For sure.
All you got to do is make sure you aim well, and it's gone.
Yeah. So
You'll have to go to the brewery to see what we mean.
So I think the producer Maurice here has a point that he wants to make. He wants to take a big shout out to Taylor for supplying the popcorn and bringing some of the tasters. So great service, Taylor. Appreciate that.
And it was
The popcorn
really
was
good
good?
popcorn.
It was.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? Because we all said no, but they still brought it. Taylor still brought it, and we enjoyed it just as
Above and beyond quality service.
And you're
Sure.
not going to refuse popcorn.
Well,
can't.
let's put it in front of you. You can't.
Right, exactly.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
So, like all episodes, we're just going to go ahead and link all their information on social media. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready for the first beer.
Absolutely. Let's get at it.
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right, time to try the first beer coming up next.
All right, so thank you again to Tara, Robin, Brent, and everyone else at Black Gold for supplying the beers today, as well as hosting us when we went down there. So thank you.
It was a
Thank
lovely
you.
tour. Thanks
It
for
was.
hosting us. For
Great
sure.
time. Great time.
And the first beer we're going to try today is where Robert Met Fletcher, which is a Pseudo Lager, and it has 4.5 ABV and 18 IBU.
So this is a clean drinking ale designed for the lager lover, hence the Pseudo Lager label.
All right.
It has light aromas of toastiness and honey, paired with flavors of more honey, lemon, and hints of fresh cut grass.
Interesting.
Well, we'll see how that goes. The fresh cut grass. So it has been labeled as a slightly dry, sparkling introduction, and then it kind of ends with a mild oakiness.
Interesting.
So we're going to see how that kind of plays out in the flavors.
Yep.
The name was inspired by the intersection where the brewery is located. So that's Robert and Fletcher Streets. In
Makes a lot of sense.
Petrolia.
That's where they meet at Black Gold.
Right.
Yeah.
So I am kind of curious because there is an individual who follows us on Untapped who was a individual who shows up to the brewery a lot, and I believe they've hired him, and Ryan Fletcher. So I don't know if there's anything in like the ancestry, the history there.
Through his lineage. Yeah, it might be. He might be related to the Fletcher that the street is named after.
Interesting.
We'll have to check in on that.
Also, good to
I'll
note,
check
if I
it.
ever move to Petrolia and just can continue to show up at the brewery, eventually I'll get hired.
There you go.
It's a great way to get a job.
It's called marketing.
All right, so on Untapped, you can follow us at Craft Beer Connoisseurs, and the overall rating for Where Robert Met Fletcher on Untapped is 3.4 bottle caps out of 5, and there's only 63 check-ins.
All right. So we're going to grab the can.
We are.
Grab our glass. Let's open her up.
And I know I'm going into this early about the can, but if you do get a Black Gold beer, especially this one, there's a QR code on the side. So if you scan it, it'll take you directly to their website where you can order more of their products.
Nice.
Smooth.
Interesting. So we are drinking this out of a pint glass today because it is a lager. So make sure to use your proper glassware.
You guys are.
But just wanted to point out that Brett is actually drinking out of a Black Gold mug. So I guess you were able to get a hold of that at the brewery.
Yes, I purchased it. So that's how I was able to get a hold of it. It was great.
I was not implying anything.
Very clean, my mug, for sure.
All right. So take a look at the beer. It sits in our glassware very nicely.
You know what? This has, lagers and pilsners have kind of like a fluffy head to them usually, and this has that head that you would expect from a lager.
Yeah, a nice color to it. It's you can't see through it completely, but it is
A little bit more
nice.
hazy than I expected.
A little more hazy.
Definitely.
A good kind of. I would say we've mentioned it before twice. Honey. I would say that this has got a very honey kind of look.
It does
to
look like honey. Yeah.
Also on the nose, I don't know if you guys have put it to the nose yet. I do get honey through the nose as well.
Yeah, I get,
Most definitely.
kind of that malty flavor or malty smell that you
Right.
would have from like a lager normally, as well as that honey kind of mixed in. So a little bit of sweetness coming from it.
Now, also one thing to note, I know we talked about fresh cut grass.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm very familiar with my dad's Nike Monarchs, right? Maybe the New Balances. I don't know if you guys
Yeah,
familiar
yeah.
with it.
Not familiar with his shoes himself, but
that's
sure.
that's the common
The
dad
concept, yeah.
the common dad cutting grass footwear attire. So usually when dad cut the grass, I'm not smelling that in this. Very distinct, very
No.
different.
Was he
So-
cutting it in his jean, like his jorts, like his jean shorts, and his t-shirt kind of tucked in?
No.
Interesting. Because when you bring up a dad cutting grass, about the Air Monarchs, I immediately go to jorts and a t-shirt. Don't know why.
I'd go more like khaki shorts and like a plain white tee.
Well, Brett, you and I are dads. Do you cut the grass like that? Because I don't.
I cut the grass. I'm not pantless while cutting the grass, just an FYI.
Okay.
But
Didn't ask you that.
but for sure, I do cut the grass in shorts and a t-shirt. Maybe just not with my Air Monarchs.
Okay.
Fair enough. Anyways, back to beer. Little bit of segue. So anyways, maybe we will, I don't want to say taste cut grass, but there might be a little bit of a hint of grass on the taste maybe.
For sure. So
We'll
let's
see.
get into this Pseudo Lager.
Pseudo. It's a big word I've learned today. Definitely get the honey and the oakiness that they were talking about on the back end.
Yeah, I definitely get sweetness up front with that honey, and then you can tell that it has that lager kind of backbone to it, that malt, that you would usually taste in a lager. But the honey is a nice touch.
Yeah, getting the honey up front, and again, very lagery kind of taste profile to it. Mm-hmm. It's not overwhelming.
No, it's subtle, but it's there.
Yeah.
Which I prefer. I don't want something to overpower. And the honey is definitely not overpowered, because honey is not really my most favorite thing, right? So I don't want that to overpower any beer. So this is a nice, smooth drinking beer. Be interested to see if we would have had this. Obviously, we saved it for the podcast, but if we would have had this tapped at the brewery itself.
Right. And so they did say that there's a lemon flavor to it. Maybe it's lemongrass. Right?
There you go.
Freshly cut lemongrass.
There it is. But I think it's it is clean. It's refreshing. Like, it is refreshing. I find, at least.
And you would expect that from a lager, right? Like, a lot of lagers, you're able to just kind of, pound them back, if you will. This is only 4.5%. I could definitely enjoy quite a few of these out on the deck in the summer. These would go down really smooth if I was drinking them in the summertime, for sure.
It's going down really smooth, even though it's not the summer.
Well, it goes down smooth at any time. You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to take a look at the cans here in a second. So there is a bit of a discrepancy, I think, whether or not they went ahead and changed the canning to it, or if it's a lager and the other one...
or it's just a misdone check-in.
No, actually, if you look at... So looking at it on tap, there is a bit of a discrepancy in just the can of it. So, Fife, why don't you go ahead and describe this can, and I'll describe this other one that's on here.
So the one that I have in my hand, which I'm going to say is the newer version of it.
I would think so, because we just got it.
Not wrong. But it actually has the old school kind of brick building that from the I think it was late 1800s. And it's the building behind it where you can go get the beers now.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It's what the building where the brewery is.
I'm glad you could spit that out, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was referencing before is they do have the Where Robert Met Fletcher, which is a Pilsner. And so this one's listed as the Pseudo Lager. Right? So that's kind of the difference between. And I don't know, we didn't get any information on that one. So we'll have to touch base with them and see what the difference between their Pilsner and the lager, if it's just maybe...
I wonder if it could have been the honey edition, perhaps.
Or perhaps it was a old brew, and they brewed originally as a Pilsner.
Yeah.
And then they decided, you know what, it's not really a Pilsner, it's not really a lager, let's call it a Pseudo Lager. And they went that way. So we'll see.
I'm wondering if they've actually put the honey in here, so they've added adjuncts to the beer.
So it's not true Pilsner?
Maybe they can't actually
Why
kind
wouldn't
of
we call it
wrap
a
it like
Pils
that.
Lager?
Well, I can tell you that doesn't sound good, so maybe that's why. So did we do the top 5 profiles? I've got a little bit tied up the old can. So let's do the top 5 flavor profiles for this beer. Number 1, clean. How do we feel as a consensus on this one?
For sure.
Yeah,
very, very clean.
Very clean. Refreshing.
Absolutely.
I think it's refreshing. Yeah, I think I'm a big fan of the refreshing aspect of this beer. 3, fruity.
No, I don't get fruity.
A little bit, but I think the honey is hiding the fruits from coming out in this beer.
Well, I'm wondering if the fruit is in relation to that lemon, right? And so I do get the lemon.
Yeah,
and so I wouldn't discredit it.
Very faint lemon, yeah.
But could you imagine a heavy lemon beer? Like, I don't know if I would enjoy that either.
Unless it
right?
was a sour.
Right.
Even
that's a good point.
sometimes if you get a good tarty lemon sour, it's overpowering. Right?
Yep, so that's true. So I think that might be where they're drawing their inspiration on the fruity. The fourth one is bitter.
I don't get a lot of bitter.
Yeah,
on
I'm not
this.
getting any bitterness from this.
Mild. And so, I mean, we haven't heard much from producer Maurice, but we both agree on that one. Is we're kind of mild on the bitterness, and then 5 light. So we're talking again pseudo lager and or a pilsner originally.
Light makes sense. Yeah,
And again, I reference this to the training meals aspect of everything, where this beer would be one of those beers that would, if somebody does not like real craft beer, not into it, this would be a good one, a starter one, if you will. And speaking of starters, you should start following us on Untappd, right? At Craft Beer Cons.
Yep.
Chris, hit us with the first rating.
Yeah, so the first one comes from Joe A. Joe's handle is Spitefire MK7. So I think Joe meant to make his handle Spitfire because his picture is of a Spitfire plane. But yeah.
Oh, went in Petrolia.
Yep. On December 30th said, excellent beer. Great that the hometown has a brewery now, which, can't disagree with that. And Joe gave it a 3.75 out of 5.
Yeah, so I got the next one. Dwayne W. The handle is The Kraken23. Commented on March 25th. A light, crisp lager that comes off a little grassy and very refreshing. So it's kind of what we've echoed a little bit. Maybe not so much as the grassy aspect of it, but again, maybe it's a lemongrass, maybe it's not, who knows. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
So I assume with his comment and rating, he has released the Kraken.
Maybe.
That's what he did there. So, in terms of our ratings, I'll start it off. I'm kind of back and forth. I'm kind of in between, but I'm going to settle at a 3.75. I think this beer it's not really a pseudo lager. I think it's more kind of bordering on that hazy pale ale kind of line. I like it. I can definitely crush it, but it's still missing certain things for me to make it higher.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say I'm at a 3.75 as well. In terms of a lager, I really like this beer. It kind of offers a little bit more than what you would expect from just a typical lager. So when you have a pseudo lager, gives you a little bit more. So 3.75.
Yeah, good ratings. For myself, I'm coming in at a 3.5. So it's about an average kind of beer for myself.
Yep.
Very good, very crushable. And for producer Maurice is coming in at a 3.0. And Chris, what does that give us overall?
That gives us an overall of exactly 3.5. So no rounding needed. There we go.
That. Well, boys, you guys ready to get pantless?
Yeah.
Beer number 2 is coming up next. Well, now that our pants are off, boys, it's time to talk about the second beer that we're going to have today. And it was not named after me, just FYI.
When you mention it twice, it sounds like it actually was.
No, the only thing I will mention is that during our visit, I went home with Derek and producer Maurice went home with 3 lawns. So what can you say? Anyway, this beer is called Pantless in Petrolia, and it is a double IPA. It has an ABV of 7% and 103 IBUs. It's going to be bitter.
All right. So as we take the microphone away from Brett, we'll just note that this beer has a delicate combination of maltiness, hop bitterness, pineapple sweetness, and jalapeno heat.
Ooh.
Yeah. So as the beer warms up, the jalapeno heat becomes more pronounced. So we've had the beer out of the fridge for a little while now. So hopefully we'll get some of that.
Yeah, so the beer is labeled as having aromas of a pineapple, or as Maurice would say, l'ananas.
Oh, français.
I thought we took the mic away.
It's back now.
Jalapeno and lemon, right? And so this is going to pique the palate's curiosity. So they say, and I think it will, right? So
I think so.
A very interesting kind of flavor profile.
It's a very unique combination.
So, I mean, I've had some beers before with some peppers in it, and I think, Brett, you have as
I've
well.
done some ghost peppers, some habaneros, so it's nice to see this one.
Yeah, so this is going to leave a slight stickiness from the pineapple along with a light spiciness. So we're going to kind of get the sticky, spicy, sticky.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think. So the aftertaste is labeled as being pleasant and curious all at the same time. So I'm very hesitant to say I'm going to enjoy this. I do enjoy pineapple. I do enjoy jalapeno. I don't know how that combination is going to come together, and if they balance it right, we could have a good beer on our hands.
And in a beer, right? So,
yes. Yeah. So we'll see how that kind of goes. So, Chris, you got a little bit of information on this one?
Yeah. So on Untapped for this beer, there are 75 check-ins, and it has an average rating of 3.23 bottle caps out of 5.
I'm quite surprised by the low rating of this. I'm extremely excited for this beer now that my microphone's back so I can talk about it. I like pineapple. I love jalapeno. I love spice. Let's get at it, right?
Yeah.
I'll let Tyler do his little spiel about opening it up and all that stuff. But please go ahead so I can have this beer.
All right, let's grab our glass, grab our can, and this one goes out to Fife and Derek. Let's open her up.
Me and Derek did bond. He did not make it to the fourth inning of the Jays game, and it was a full 2-liter growler. I don't know if that says more about Derek or it's more about me, but it is what it is.
Easy on the pour.
Anyways, so we are drinking this double IPA out of an IPA glass. So make sure to use your proper glassware.
Got a couple of fingers ahead as well as Chris.
Yeah, not a great pour for me.
we really
there's a strong head retention on this one.
I feel like
tell you.
maybe keeping it out of the fridge kind of increased the head on this one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, she's 3 fingers.
At least.
At least, yeah. Good head retention, very nice. But let's see if we could dip our nose into this one and see what we can get for a smell.
I can smell the heat.
Smell the jalapeno.
And I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Producer Maurice over there, he is.
Well, so it's interesting because
Chris has got a really good point, I think, coming here.
Yeah,
Stay
so
tuned.
When we were at Black Gold, Brent, the brewer, mentioned that if ketchup is on your hot scale, then this is probably not the beer for you. And let's just say Maurice finds ketchup spicy.
Yeah.
So, short story short, I really want to get into this one.
Let's take a look at the color. Let's go through the color as we wait for the head to kind of subside. So, Chris, you got a point you want to hit on this one? No? Okay. So it is.
I talk, Chris. It's almost like you've taken the words, like you and the producer are speaking the same language right now.
It kind of looks like, the color reminds me of like iced tea.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like, what is that? Like a Tom Collins?
Yeah.
Are you thinking like Lipton or Nestea?
Either.
More
Yeah,
brisk.
brisk.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's got kind of this copper tone to it, but kind of it's
Like
still,
the sunscreen?
Still a little bit light, and there's a bit of an undertone to it. So, that's what I'm getting.
I'm itching to get into this one. I'm not going to lie to you. I know this is going to be, I think, one of the beers that all 4 of us are going to have very differing ratings.
I hope.
Oh, I agree.
I hope that we have very similar ratings just because of that.
All of 4 done.
Yeah.
No.
No, again on the smell. So we know we've all talked about the jalapeno portion of it.
That's literally all I'm smelling.
See, I do get a bit of the pineapple personally, but because it's again trying to make sure that you separate those smells out. Like jalapeno is overpowering. But I do still smell a little bit of the pineapple.
It smells kind of like jalapeno Miss Vicky's chips.
Oh, those are pretty good. I wish I had some of those in front of me right now. But I will say, now that the head is kind of following down and settling more, I am getting more of the pineapple scent off the beer.
Right.
Originally, when I poured it, it was like jalapeno, which don't get me wrong. I like jalapenos, which is why I'm excited for this beer.
Right.
But I'm getting more of the pineapple. For sure.
Well, it looks like producer Maurice is really
He's excited.
He's itching to get into this jalapeno beer, so I think we should get into it.
He doesn't.
Do you have an allergy? Like you just can't have this, or what's going on?
Doesn't smile often, but there's a big smile on his face.
He's pretty excited.
All right, let's take a sip, fellas.
All right, let's do this.
Oh yeah, there's heat there.
Oh,
like nothing crazy, but you can tell that.
And
it's there.
the taste of the pineapple is also there.
Yeah.
And then on the back end, the heats get you.
Yeah.
And oh baby.
Yeah, you
Big
know
fan.
what? It's what I kind of talked about earlier on. Is it's a balance, mind you. First sip, let's kind of wait and see how this kind of goes. But we talked about it earlier on, or at least Chris, you did, about pulling it out. So we had the wonderful fridge called Outside, based on current temperatures, cooling these beers down. We brought them inside when we started to record, and they've warmed up a little bit. They're
still cold,
still cold. But I'd say that they're starting to warm up. And now that we've poured it into this IPA glass and we're letting some of the air in, letting it warm up a bit, I'm interested when we get about halfway down if my first taste is similar to my mid-taste.
And I know I got a couple more of these at the brewery because I was wanting to try all aspects of it, right? So this one, obviously, we're having a little more chilled. And eventually, later on in life, when I have this beer again, I'm going to leave it out for a few hours, almost like you would like an Imperial Stout, and leave it out for a bit, and then see how much the heat comes through. Right now, the heat is on the back end. You get the pineapple up front. I like this beer. What can I say?
And you know what? This beer is listed as 103 IBUs, but honestly, it doesn't taste like 103 IBUs. Right, it really doesn't.
And I think when we're looking at it, when there's a low rating, right, by the community. I'm a little bit surprised by that because you're told what it is up front.
That's true. What do you know what you're getting into?
What do you expect, right? Like, I'm getting jalapeno. I'm getting the pineapple. Like, I just did some pineapple on the grill the other day, and I'm getting that grilled pineapple kind of taste through this. Like, if I had a ham dinner right now without pineapple, I'd have this beer with it.
Yeah,
that's true.
Right? Like, and I think it would complement each other.
The one thing about brewing a beer like this is that when you put in the jalapenos, you're already going to kind of cater to a niche market,
right?
A little bit, right?
Yeah, because as Chris said, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to know what you're getting into. You're not just going to give it to somebody and say, "Hey, here's a craft beer, have it," and give them a jalapeno pineapple IPA, right?
Yeah, so interesting note actually from producer Maurice. So he said he originally didn't mind it. So he says a bit of heat in the aftertaste, but not able to be overpowering with the pineapple, which is surprising from him because,
sure,
like we mentioned, ketchup, right? And
ketchup.
I think
spicy.
I think it's fair. But again, you know what? I kind of want to get through this beer, and same with producer Maurice, who's doing the same sort of thing. Is let's see how we kind of go through this. So we might drag this section on a little bit more, so we get some more sips in.
I'm okay with that
because I don't think it's fair to go ahead and just rate it, halfway through the beer. We might be more of a 3/4 on this one.
Yes, I agree with that.
And I'm interested to know whether this beer was brewed with jalapenos without seeds or with seeds, because the seeds are really what makes it spicy.
Yeah,
right.
I would say it would have to be with the seeds.
You think so?
I think so.
I'm getting like the taste of the jalapeno, but not necessarily the spiciness of the jalapeno.
Yeah, I think that probably seemed, in my personal opinion, I mean, we'll probably follow up with them to make sure what's going on.
Yeah,
I think the seeds are out of this personally.
But I agree, but I don't, because when you're looking at the flavor of it, they say that it heats up as the warmer it gets. So I think that it's subdued because of the temperature, and the seeds would have to be there in order for you to get that heat as it warms itself up, right? So I think that if you just had the peppers alone, you're getting, because there's literally no spiciness in the pepper, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So if that was the case, if this was just pepper like forward, this you wouldn't have anything. But there is spice included in this, right?
It's also interesting to see like how peppers, like a jalapeno pepper, for example, would ferment, right? Because it's right. So
for sure.
Do you
want to do the 5 flavor profiles while we're here? Then?
Yeah, sure. Why not, right? So the first one is pineapple. Yes, right. Number 2, who could have thought? Jalapeno.
Yeah.
Okay. 3, peppery.
Before we get to before we talk about that one, do you think that those should be flipped? Maybe the jalapeno and pineapple?
I personally I would put jalapeno as number 1.
I do like a 1A, 1B. I think they're pretty much tied on my end, right?
Maurice is like a bobblehead over here agreeing with you, Chris. So
yeah,
he would. So again, 3, peppery. I think we already mentioned that. But number 4, hoppy. And 5, bitter.
Not bitter. Like I don't.
No.
Yeah, I don't get much bitterness.
It's got
at
that
all.
smoothness to
Maurice
it that I like.
is on the bitter train, and so
he's just bitter. He has to have this beer.
I'm actually really excited for this kind of beer because it doesn't speak specifically to one of our overall styles, right? Like Brett, you're more of the IPA kind of guy on it, but we all have different flavors that we're tasting. We all try different things. Maurice is saying the malty bitterness, is maybe because of the darkness of the beer, and that's coming through. So that's fair, but we're all coming up with different things, right? So if you're part of Black Gold's Mug Club, you're going to get a variety of different people tasting it, and you're going to have a variety of different opinions. And
speaking of their Mug Club members, when pre-lockdown, when they would brew a new batch, whoever was in the restaurant that was a Mug Club member, they would come around and give tasters of the new beer that was going to come out on tap, right? Which is a very nice idea from them. So they kind of get a little bit of feedback from the brewery per se, or from the customers, I should say, not the brewery, because they probably already like it. But from the customers to say, okay, this is what you could do better. I like this, et cetera, right?
Right. Well, let's get some feedback on this beer from the Untapped users that have had it.
Sure. So Joe S. handled Joe Guy on February 1st said, hot pepper IPA, question mark. Don't think it was supposed to be, or it was labeled wrong. And give it a 2 out of 5. So a lower rating, again, entitled to their opinion.
Not sure what Joe's talking about, though. Like, they're not hiding from the fact that it's a jalapeno IPA.
Right.
So
they tell you straight up.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally on the label.
And,
right.
and that's the thing is, like, I wouldn't have 6 of these in a night.
No.
This is maybe a one and done with the dinner. But Brett, I think you've got a very interesting one coming up here from Untapped.
Indeed, I do. So it says Christopher H. I don't know if that's the Chris that's 6 feet away from me right now or not.
Definitely not.
His username is Unit 663. You would know. On November 29th, commented and checked in on the beer. There's no comment. He rated it a 3.5 out of 5. But the check-in picture, the expression, a picture's worth 1,000 words? This definitely lines up with that.
Well, can you give us some of those words to describe it?
So, Pantless is definitely number 1.
Yes.
Do I know if he is in Petrolia?
Yeah.
That I don't.
So let's do the top 5 profile picture rundown. So number 1 is Pantless.
I
number
honestly
2,
think that if we could post this picture on our Instagram, just so people know what I'm looking at right now. The worst part about this is on a projector. So
number 1 is Pantless. Number 2, I'm going to toss out Corona. So in the background there is several cases of Corona.
The virus.
Number
3, I'll go with pink underwear.
Pink underwear. Number 4, do we have a number 4 somewhere? Give me a 4.
Number 4, shitty tattoo.
Right. And Maurice is tying this one on here with a number 5 of knockers. There's a hand gesture. We're going to leave that one alone. So that's Christopher H. Handle Unit 663.
I don't know Chris. I understand, like Chris in the picture, not Chris here.
I have no association with this photo.
That's what I think, but who knows? I don't know what kind of research you do, but you could have maybe provided another check-in. Not that one.
Right. So,
good Lord.
Again, looking at the picture, the only good thing in this picture is it does show us the old canning style. So that was something that we mentioned.
It does show the beer. That's the only good thing about it.
We did see this in the first beer, and why there was a little bit of confusion around the Pilsner and the Lager.
Yeah.
But again, it was a very standard beer can with the title on. So I'm going to move past that picture as quickly as possible because we have it on 126 inches. So we're
it's not 126 inches there, though.
Probably helping Christopher out with that one. So out of 5 bottle caps, I'm going to give this beer a 3.75. It is nice. It does balance, I think, a little bit better than I anticipated. Almost just dropped it. So
it balances well on the table.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna hate me for this, boys.
Uh-oh.
I'm not surprised.
I know you hate me already. This is a 5.
Wow. You know what? The second 5 from Brett Frankfurt.
Because I love jalapenos. I love pineapples. The creaminess, the flavor of the pineapple mixed with the jalapeno. It is freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Brent or Chris or whoever brewed it. Maybe it was Tara. Maybe it was Robin. I don't know. Whoever did it.
Yeah.
Excellent job. I'm glad I picked up more of this. Damn, this is good.
So we've got a 3.75 and we got a 5.
And I am going to be at a 4, I think. So I do like the jalapeno flavor, but it's not... I I like that you went with the 5. I can't get there. Producer Maurice.
You can never get on my level. Don't worry, Chris.
Producer Maurice is giving it a 2.25.
Yeah. So we talked about this before, is that you can see the spectrum. Here it is.
And we knew kind of going in that Maurice might not be a huge fan of this, which is fine.
Yeah.
I'm honestly shocked he rated it that high. I thought it was going to be lower personally because I knew as soon as he saw it, I was like,
for sure.
I don't know.
For sure. So that is the spectrum. So what does that get us, Brett?
The math checks out to be 3.75. Again, even.
Wow.
We don't have to round anything.
Easy.
Look at us.
Math was easy.
Right?
So that's all for our conversation on Black Gold and their beers.
Yeah, so coming up, we'll talk about some famous sports families. All right, welcome back. So Petrolia is actually home of the famous Hunter brothers, a famous hockey family.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
It really is.
All right.
So we thought that we'd talk about some famous sports families because of that. So just kind of throw it out there to you guys. Any families kind of like come to mind right away? Anybody?
I'm just putting my pants back on here. In terms of famous families, obviously you got to look at the Gretzkys, right? Like Walter Gretzky being the father of Wayne and Brett.
Yeah.
Now, Wayne and Brett have the highest cumulative total of brothers in the NHL.
They do.
Wayne Gretzky had like 2,000 and some odd
Points.
And Brett had 4.
Yeah.
So he
big walk.
contributed.
Yep.
He was a big contributor to that point, but
So
he wasn't good.
Sure. So one of the ones that kind of stands out for me is the Griffeys, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we got Griffey Sr., Griffey Jr.,
Hitting
right?
back-to-back home runs, 1989.
Yeah, like how cool is that, right? So it's not only the like brother and brother, but it's father and son going out there playing. Like that is the ultimate kind of experience, I think.
So one that I kind of like is the Curry family. So Steph Curry playing in the NBA, his brother Seth, and then his dad also played in the NBA. So pretty cool that you can
Del
have.
Curry was his dad.
Yeah.
What about
his dad?
What
Del,
about the balls? Like Lonzo and all those guys?
Yeah, Lonzo.
That is a completely different entity.
Lonzo,
Okay.
LaMelo. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're not good per se.
Well, LaMelo's pretty
LaMelo's
good before he
decent,
got
I think,
injured.
right?
Yeah.
I have a clip to show you later as to why people hate them. Anyway,
Well, I think there's several reasons. Okay, so Maurice is coming out with a couple of information.
hold on. Maurice is coming out, but not talking about his ancestry of his name with like Maurice and Henry Richard.
No, different.
What is this?
Different ones. But
I understand he's not a Montreal Canadiens fan, so I get it.
so
but
we'll keep it to hockey though, just to tickle your fancy. So the Stahl brothers,
Yeah.
the
few of them.
Subans,
Three brothers in the NHL. That's
The
pretty
Subans.
impressive.
The Stahls had
Subans,
four, didn't
a
they?
couple.
right? Subans.
Did the Stahls have four?
I think the Stahls had 4.
They
had all 4.
Oh,
in
wow.
in the NHL, or was it 3
Subans
and
had
1
3.
coming up? 3 coming up, 3 there, and 1 coming up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. And then Subans, right?
Yep.
Not bad. Not bad.
And the Sutters.
Yes.
And the
That's
Sutter,
more Western, but still.
But there's like, what, 7 of them?
What
the
about-
Sutter?
What about
They just kept going.
yeah. What about football? What do we got
Yeah,
in football?
yeah,
right? So we
so-
talked a little bit about there's baseball.
Yeah.
There's hockey.
How
What
about
football?
how about the Mannings?
How about 'em?
Peyton and Eli?
Do they?
But
Their dad, Archie.
and Archie, yeah. And
Right.
I'm pretty sure their nephew, so Peyton and Eli's brother, has a son, and he is
Does he have a
gonna-
cousin who's got a friend?
Maybe.
Okay.
But apparently their nephew is going to be a really good quarterback too. I think he's playing in college.
You
right
want to know
now,
what's
something
funny
like
about that? Is
Right,
that Peyton and Eli made the NFL, but their brother didn't.
Yeah.
It's always awkward when like there's another
when
sibling
someone
that
that
doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see that a lot. But okay, what about tennis? We got the Williams sisters.
Yeah,
Yes,
Williams
Venus and
sisters.
Serena. Producer Maurice is a big tennis fan. I don't understand that. but-
So
Okay.
that I mean, again, so you see, I don't know what it is, right? The genetics of these families.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's really, really hard for one person to make it to a professional level in a sport. And then when you see multiple siblings, even, or like a father and son or mother daughter, whatever it
Guriels?
is. Yeah, like that's
Right.
Vladdy Senior, Vladdy Junior.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
was just gonna say
Bichette.
the Bichettes.
Yeah.
Biggio's.
Biggio, like,
Let's just go on Blue
the
Jays.
Blue Jays, yeah.
Clemens, you could literally take half of the players that were on the Jays
Yeah.
At
some
one
point in
time, yeah. At one time.
and look at it and say, okay, well, you're a father-son combination, right? Like again, Biggio, Bichette, Clemens. Like, it's just...
It's pretty crazy.
Continues.
It's ridiculous.
And
right?
if you look at like auto racing, so in Formula One, there's Ralph and Michael Schumacher, or
yeah.
Schumacher.
Yeah. They're not shoemakers.
And
No,
then,
they don't make shoes.
Not today.
And then
Not
on
today.
the North American side, there's the Andretti's.
Right.
So
Petties.
Yeah. Petties. There you go.
Yeah. I know people are kind of like intermittent in terms of if it's a sport or if it's entertainment, but you got to look at like Mans in terms of running WWE.
We don't have to.
Right? Like Vince, Stephanie, Shane,
Yes.
all of them.
Is
Triple H, who married into the family,
Good
who now is
acting.
running everything there too, right? You
Good-
guys have no idea what I'm talking about.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
They're very good actors. Yes. No, that's...
They run a multi-billion-dollar company. They've done okay.
An acting company. Yeah.
I see. We'll have a debate about that eventually. I'm sure one of the episodes we'll talk about it.
I'm sure. So there are a lot of these family kind of connections, right? Whether it's siblings or, again, father-son,
Yeah.
mother-daughter. I mean, it's endless. And genetics.
I just think
insane.
it's really cool where you can see like when you have it passed on from father, son, mother, daughter, where it's that genetics, like you said,
Right.
passed on. It's pretty cool where like obviously sports is like success in sports does correlate to genetics, right? Not just
There's a
work
connection
ethic.
for sure.
Yeah.
You would like to think so, right? I mean, obviously, there's a difference between like, we'll go back to the Gretzky's, for example, like Wayne being super, super good and Brett Gretzky being super, super bad, but at the same time, still being okay to make the NHL, right? Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say okay. Like, if you make the NHL,
You're really good.
You're
it's like a
really
0
good.
point something percent chance. Like, you get a better chance of being struck
Yeah.
by lightning than making a professional sport, right?
For sure.
Right. And I wouldn't want to be struck by lightning.
No, right? The one thing I will say, though, before we wrap up and kind of go to our goodbye is family all at the same time doesn't have to be genetic, right? Like, take a look at the four of us right now. Even though
I'm
not
interested where this is going.
Right?
Stay tuned.
I know we're not genetically together, right? Because obviously we all have different fathers, different moms.
Yep.
As far as we know.
Yeah, hopefully.
I would like to think so. But at the
wood.
same time, you got to think of like when you make friends with people and have them for upteenth amount of years, you guys become family, right? So
Yep.
at the same time, you got to look at that as your family, not just like genetically or blood. You got to look at the other people that are around you that make family,
Brett
right?
is getting really
Right.
sentimental.
So you're welcome. We're all family here. That's it. That's all I have. Tyler, speak about something else.
All right, so we're going to be right back with our goodbye, our farewell. Thank you, Brett, for that.
With a tear in your eye.
All right, welcome back, family.
Craft Beer Connoisseurs family.
Yeah, so that's going to be it for today's episode.
Thanks again for listening. Keep on listening every other Thursday as Craft Beer Connoisseurs releases a new episode, and on our off Thursdays for a producer special.
Now that my pants are fully back on, I just want to make sure to tell your friends, family, and your favorite pantless person in Petrolia.
And your family. So from all of us and producer Maurice, I'm Tyler.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Chris, and together we're the Craft Beer Connoisseurs.